Okay, so your offer is just boring. You might even feel like you don't want to reach out to your customers because um, you're just kind of like, well, I think I could solve some of your problems, but you just don't have your messaging together, and you're not sure how to make the message land with this customer. So that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to develop our value proposition and make a solution that meets the customer needs so well that it isn't even about our product. It's just about you solving problems. So let's get into it. All right, so a quick recap of what we talked about last week. This is actually the second part of our developing GTM or go to market campaign blueprint. So we've already been through one episode. So last week we talked about exploiting our tribes, like who do we already know, and because if they're people that we know, we probably already kind of know what sort of problems might need to be solved, and then go find those ICPs or those typical people in that organization and figure out what their pains and motivations are, and make sure we have a matchup. Like we actually have a product that can fit some of those, um, address some of those pains, and then close the gaps and try to get a solution, start getting a solution together. So, this is probably if you're a marketing professional, you're going to think this is just real, not detailed enough, this whole thing. But my point here is to try to uh, get together a version of a go to market campaign that can work for you, like a small business owner or somebody who's just starting out who doesn't have $20,000 to spend on marketing. So, in my particular case, just telling customers what I have and hoping that they'll buy hasn't not been working out for me. So this is again, as I mentioned before, a build in public situation. I'm going to address this eco village market because I know it really well, and that's who we're going to continue exploring today. So let's get into the value proposition. So, what is a value proposition? It's really just where we kind of match up all of those pains and motivations to solutions. And so, we're going to go through it a little bit at a time. I can fast forward right now and show you what the what sort of the outcome is of our like exercise here. But since it looks really complicated, but it's not, so let me just rewind and we'll get into it. All right. So, what goes into developing the value proposition is just we need to kind of like figure out what is it that the customer does in their job, um, and what parts of that are painful. Are they doing manually, or are they having to do something that doesn't have to be so difficult? And what would fix that problem? And then so on our end of it, what the proposition that we're going to develop is going to address how we could relieve that pain. What kind of solutions do we need to put in place? And then finally, what specific products and services would fit the need? And those don't just have to be our products and services. You're going to see my final solution for this customer include some solutions that aren't even in my stack. But if you put your mindset into addressing a problem instead of offering a product, then you'll sometimes you have to find out that you have to pull in partners, that you have to go a little bit further than just signing up somebody for a subscription. And that's okay, because then you're decoupling your low subscription price from the solution price. So maybe you get to charge more. Maybe it's more of your work actually will have more of a consulting feel than just like I pulled something off the shelf and bought it. So I'm going to say that for me, that's great. If I can develop a solution that really like just knocks it out of the park and charge a little bit more, then that's going to make everybody happy. So to start with, remember Julian and Ash? They were our eco villagers. If you don't remember or you didn't see last week's video, maybe go back and watch that. But basically, we figured out like what are some of the things that they do in their daily lives, and they share cars and resources. They work on committees. They have to track decisions in eco villages. It's really important that like consensus decision making is followed, and that we follow a specific process to make those and track the history of those. We need it. We need to onboard new people to the village. We've got to govern just the day-to-day business of making sure that we're doing what we need to do as a village. We need to track our labor because even in even in most eco villages, there's some sort of payment going on for work. So not every eco village is just a commune where everybody just does everything and receives no payment. We've got to raise money if we have a nonprofit, and we have to manage our events because in an eco village, there's a big sense of sharing and community. So there's often events just within the village, and that we also invite the public to. So what's painful about that right now for Julian and Ash is that the big corporations have our info because it's all stored in Google Docs. Can't remember or find decisions, or it's hard, like, especially when somebody leaves the village and takes their information with them. Inconsistent decision processes. We know how things are supposed to work, but they're not being really done that way. Uh, from committee to committee, it really varies on how organized they are, and whether, first of all, tasks get done at all, or how status is tracked and follow up is done. Um, there's too many owners of critical documents because, again, the Google Docs thing, like, somebody decides there needs to be a document, so they create it in their account, and they may give permission to people that need it. But then if they go away mad, they might just delete all the documents or take away the permissions. There's conflicts over car and resource availability. Like, in an eco village, we probably are sharing cars, and you have to control the booking of that somehow, and schedule the research, or the common spaces too, not just cars, and make sure that you manage the availability of these things so that it's fair. Um, and the billing, there's billing that goes with that. If somebody's going to use a car or a space, they need to be billed for it. So we need to be keeping proper records. No single source of village events means that, like, we might have several calendars, or the particular people who are booking the events decide how they're going to do it and where they're going to host it. And so we might just have nowhere to see in one common view what's going on in the village. So if they just had these few things, this is from the customer point of view. If they just had one easy way to book stuff, um, decisions and task status that they could consistently find regardless of the committee, or regardless of who's doing it, a way to reach out to donors and see the history of that donor, and a place to put their events online, and then a single place for documents and village history. That those are, like, what do they call them? Gain creators for those uh, customers. And then so now we switch over to our side. So we've got all of this information about what our customer likes to do and what the problems that they have are. And we start to think about how could we address and fix these pains. So this might kind of look a little similar um, to the pains that the customer mentioned, but that's intentional, and this is sort of just changing perspective on how could we address those pains. So Tracked and auditable decisions would address some of those pains. Consistent, clear, and available committee tasks, great. A private, sovereign place where the village can put their information and control access to it would address actually several concerns. And then one single way to book resources, rooms, and events from anywhere. Uh, so now, once we know how we would sort of address this, and we've already done our product fit gap, so we kind of know at a high level that we probably have most of what we need. The solutions come to the forefront. Like, how are we going to create these games for them? And so you'll notice in this list a few things that I don't have. So our product doesn't have to be the whole solution here, but we might partner with somebody else or bundle something else in, which is what I'm going to do for this constituency. So we need a decision resource and task tracking solution. We need donor management and communications. We need resource calendars. We need village owned private document vaults and an event calendar, and we need a time tracker. So, um, so when I say pull a little from here, pull a little from there, it's we're pulling together a compelling solution here that really meets all the needs. So in this case, we're going to offer the build run kit because that's where our CRM is for donor management. That's where our Kanban boards are for task management. That's where our new features are going to live for time tracking and decision tracking. Because this audience is so important to me, I'm willing to put in a little effort to add new features that could benefit this customer and others. And then we're going to partner with Akumba Mail probably, or another solution to offer a way for them to do mass emails, because not every customer will need this. Some might already have a solution that they use. But this being part of the package is compelling probably for any eco village that has donors, has a nonprofit, and needs to communicate. And then the other thing that I'm going to add in here is that I'm going to put it all on a VPS. My service is kind of modular. Eco villages all have the same concerns about data sovereignty and privacy, and it's just sort of cultural. And so if I offer to put all of these eco villages on the same server, so that at least the same kind of organization is there, and they're each in their own separate kind of instance, then their data is safe and it's secure from prying eyes. There's nobody that's developing ad strategies from looking at their documents, Google, and and it's it's sort of private, and they know where it is and they can control it. So my solution there to make sure that all of their documents are safe and controlled and that their information is secure is to put all of it on a virtual private server. And that goes with the instance of build run kit. That goes with an instance of Nextcloud and only Office. And so now they're going to have a way for people to create and store documents, control access to them, um, find committee decisions, and all of those things that are just sort of messy in the current way that things are done in the typical eco village. And so this is what's going to be my solution. So the tool that I will offer that you might use to sort of figure this out for yourself is Strategizer's value proposition canvas. That's where I sort of processed this information that I had gathered and started to develop to distill it down into a solution. So you might recognize some of the things on this screen because they're the things that we just looked at. We looked at what does our customer do, what hurts, what would fix it from the customer's point of view, right? And then we kind of take that over and see, how are we going to address this pain? What are the solutions that we need? And so how are we going to cobble that together into products and services? So it's that simple. First time that I looked at the value proposition canvas, I was kind of honestly disgusted. I'm like, what are all these shapes and whatever? Like it just looked confusing, but it's really simple when you distill it down. So I hope that is helpful. And I just think it's so important that we start to think this way about our customer in terms of just offering a solution or solutions instead of trying to get them to buy our product. Because I'll tell you, certain days I thought about just, closing up shop because nobody is listening. And it's really just hard to even get conversations. So I'm taking this as my way into a particular set of customers so that I'm saying the things that they're saying, so that I'm demonstrating that I'm hearing the things that they're saying and that they're worried about and offering solutions. So I hope to come back later with results from this and tell you that yes, it worked, and yes, I reached uh, this audience, and that I actually sold software. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna pivot, and I'm gonna do this exact same thing again for another audience, either one of my tribes or just some you know type of customer that I find on Reddit or whatever. So let's compare. Like, what did we have before? What was I selling before? I was probably saying things like, hey, we have a business suite here that has a CRM and a strategy, having projects all in one place at a low, low price. Okay, yeah, so does Monday.com and ClickUp and everybody else. But what do I care? And then so after, like the way that we're talking after we've gone through this exercise is we're saying, hey, Eco Village, we know it's hard to track decisions. Make sure that committees are staying on task and kind of like a similar way, and that the privacy and handling of your data are big concerns. Do you want to see our solution? And so that's just even from the starting a conversation point, that's like a much better place to start than what we had before. So this is kind of wrapping it up for today. Sorry, I'm not as wordy and lengthy as I was last week. Actually, I'm not sorry at all. I'm glad to keep this short and sweet. But I do think that you need to sit with the value proposition and really think through it. And I don't want to clutter your brain with more information for today. So just know that next week we're going to start exploring pricing, and we're going to talk a little bit more something that I hinted about earlier, which is, um, you know, offering solutions instead of just a product sort of decouples your offer from the just the subscription price that you have for your product, because now you're pricing a solution, you're not pricing an individual product. um, and then we're going to talk about, I'm not sure, like the episode order, this is over probably 2 or 3 more episodes, but then we're going to talk about the lean marketing asset toolkit. Like for this go to market playbook, what are the things that you need to either show the customer, to reach the customer, to help your salespeople sell this solution, right? And then we're going to check and make sure it's ready, and go out there and get customers. So I hope to see you next week. I hope that you will look at this current presentation on brkit.vip/GTM. Plan to update what I have already out there with these new slides that I put in today. And when we're all done in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll put all of the templates out there for you to download so you can sort of execute this on your own. And a hint for the future, I'm hoping to just actually produce a tool that will just take you through the whole process in a methodical way, And who knows, that may end up being my business instead of the build run kit. Uh, but more than likely, it'll just be a tool inside build run kit. So we'll see you next week.
Two, two, two.